of DC films. We're talking about a Superman movie, a Batman and Robin film, a Game of Thrones style Wonder Woman prequel on the island of Themyscira, a True Detective style Green Lantern Corps mystery kind of thing. We got animated projects, we got comedy projects, we got Swamp Thing horror. We got a lot of different stuff that come across. And I feel like, today's show, John Campea Show, ran long. And I feel like we barely scratched the surface.
I agree.
Of talking about a lot of stuff. And I have not looked at the list of questions our viewers have sent in. By the way, guys, the super chats are open still. If you guys have a thought, theory, question, opinion you want us to address, go ahead and fire that in. I have not read across them yet, but I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that there's going to be a bunch of DC questions today.
I think probably that's
a safe bet.
That's an optimistic appraisal of the situation. Yes.
They're mostly about the donkey spinoff.
Oh, right.
Oh, yes. And of course that. So, listen, let's not waste any time. Well, we could sit here and wax poetic a little bit about the announcement we heard today, but I got a feeling that you guys are going to bring up a lot of stuff. So let's not waste any time and dive into the stuff that you guys have been writing in. Rob, what are we starting off with?
We start with James Argenta. Looks like Superman and Lois will survive for now. Gunn said since it's doing well, there will be 1 or 2 more seasons, which I think fits with the kids going to college and Michael Cudlett's cast as Lex.
I did not see that. Did they announce they're going to let it run
I
for
didn't
another 1 or 2
see it either.
seasons?
I noticed that Deadline's been following things up from the press release with other bits of info. So, I mean, that makes sense. I like that show. But again, with I guess we're not going to call it Batman Flashpoint anymore, but with that demarcation point.
I'll still call it Batman Flashpoint.
Yeah, I know.
I still think when the trailers start coming, I still think we're going to see more Michael Keaton than we are Ezra Miller.
I think you might be right. But I mean, I just love the idea that from what we understand, they're really using it like what Flashpoint was used for in the comics. So I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, look, there's exciting times ahead. But it might also make sense because listen, the new Superman movie, Superman Legacy, is not coming out until 2025.
Right.
Which means you still got a couple of years you can do Superman Lois and not have it overlap with the launching of the new DCU, right?
100%.
So it seems to make sense. All right, what's next?
Al Renshaw says, Damian Wayne Robin could work. You have to remember this kid was trained as an assassin for most of his life and is deadly. He could work with Batman.
Look, in a cartoon, yes. In a comic book page, yes. Not in live action. Not an 11-year-old child. I don't care how well you train an 11-year-old child. I don't care.
I also don't think it's, and from a live action standpoint, it's not very believable.
No, it's completely unbelievable.
I mean, I think 16, maybe.
See, I see. Even I would say you could probably go a little bit younger than that. I think maybe the bottom is like 14. Probably more 15. You go 14, 15, 16. Mm-hmm. And I've always said, go back to the earliest videos I've made about this. A Batman in live action running around with a child with a stick is not going to work in live action. But you break from the tradition of the comics a little bit. You age it up a little bit. 15, 16 years old, that can work.
Yep.
Yeah, that can absolutely. I think it might piss off some of the comic book purists, but I think that can work. And listen, out of any of them, if you're not going to do Dick Grayson, out of any of them, honestly, Damian Wayne is the most interesting one for exactly the reasons Al just mentioned. So yeah, this one could work. But again, if they come out here and make him 10 years old, 11 years old, I don't care how often you train him. Like there's not an 11-year-old child who's going to beat Ray in a fight. So I mean, that's just
Is that true, Ray?
All right, what's next?
Al Renshaw says, modern Star Trek has been great, and Picard Season 3, it looks like some more greatness. That trailer is phenomenal, and this looks amazing. Well, Al,
trailer looks good.
I will say this. I can tell you Star Trek Picard Season 3 is excellent, but that trailer is a little misleading.
Ooh, interesting.
Because, they made it for the AFC Championship game, and it showed online, but there's a lot more. That was only 2 minutes of a 10-hour story.
Right.
And there is a lot of character development, a lot of characters, and a lot of surprises. It's by far, to me, the best Star Trek in 20 years.
By the way, let me address something here, because I saw one of our viewers. This is the argument that always comes up. It's the worst argument. But whenever the Robin thing comes out, you can't have an 11 show. Always, inevitably, every single time, somebody thinks they're smart and goes, well, what about Hit Girl and Kick-Ass? And right now, we've got in the live chat, one of our fellow movie-loving brethren, Craig Hurst, writes, well, Kick-Ass, a little girl can do it in Kick-Ass. Everybody always brings that up. Kick-Ass, listen to me. Pay attention. Just pay attention to this. And please bring this up whenever you hear somebody try to draw a comparison again. Kick-Ass is a satire spoof comedy. All right. Now, if you want the DCU, you want Batman to be a satirical spoof comedy, going back to the old Adam West, if you want that, sure, that's cool. So yes, Kick-Ass in the movie Kick-Ass, which I think is fantastic, is a spoof satirical comedy, and it had little Hit Girl doing and that was wonderful in that context. In anything that's supposed to be grounded, and we understand it's a comic book genre, but the best comic book movies are the ones that feel like they have one foot planted in some kind of verisimilitude. It's different. It's different. So, yeah, you want Robin to be a little, hey, you want to be a satire spoof comedy? Go for it. But you want to make it like Christopher Nolan's Batman? You want to make it like Logan? You want to make it like the best comic book movies? You can't. No. Hit Girl is a terrible example. Anyway, that's just that.
I just want to thank the live viewers for joining us today. That's it. Thank you for joining us for Open Mic.
Thank you. All right, what's next?
Jesse. No, Jerome. Yes. Did James Gunn, that's a little Purple Rain for you. Did James Gunn imply that Blue Beetle is going to be the start of his new DC universe, or was it his Superman film?
It's the Superman film because, Blue Beetle was a film that was conceived of, put into motion, and produced before there was this new regime. That doesn't mean James Gunn can't tie it in to the new DCU, but it sounds like Superman is going to be the start of the new DCU.
Yeah, I took it to mean that the film does not have any overt ties to the rest of the DC universe, that it's sort of unto itself. And so it could be part of the new universe, but if it's only a one-off, that's okay too, because the film doesn't have appearances by other heroes. It's just kind of its own thing, which makes sense because they're introducing it's just like the first Shazam until the end with that cameo of Superman, it was its own thing. And I think that's probably what he meant, which is cool.
Did you guys happen to see the new poster for Blue Beetle that they dropped the other day?
The other day? No, I saw the one with the big scarab on it. But
the big scarab.
Oh, that was like, wasn't that
it was a couple weeks
ago.
Yeah,
I just saw it today.
Oh, it's
you see the most recent poster that dropped today?
I know, I didn't mean today, but the one they dropped. It looks cool. It looks kind of like Spider-Man.
Did you hear that there's going to be a 10th Fast and the Furious movie?
Is that news?
No.
Did that just
I'm
drop
telling you,
today?
it's true.
Did I intend with an X? Because that would be cool if they
Are they
did.
dropping a trailer on the Super Bowl? Oh,
Did you hear
wait.
there's going to be a Madam
All right,
Web movie?
man. Hey, mute my mic. I'm not talking no more.
All right, what's next?
There's a Madam Web movie coming.
Jonathan Schultz says, if the Flash movie will reset everything, but Blue Beetle and Aquaman come out afterwards, will those films be a part of the new DC universe? Maybe what Momoa was excited about was him being Aquaman still.
See, I can't imagine, like Jason Momoa coming out going, "Whoo, dreams coming true, freaking out over, you're going to keep doing what you've been doing." I mean, I can see being happy about it, but he is clearly going to be playing something else. Now, Jason Momoa said, coming out of that, he says, "Hey, listen, I'll always be Aquaman." Now, whether that means in spirit or heart or whatever, it's just that doesn't mean I can't play other characters. That's
Right.
Clearly the wooting and yipping and screaming, that's about something new. What that new is, we'll have to wait and find out. All right, what's next?
Jesse, Jonathan, nope, one more time. Let's scooch up. There we go. Raymond Verrata says, Variety reports that Andrea Riseborough's Oscar nom won't be revoked, but the social media campaigners will be addressed.
If only I said that the other day. Look, the fact of the matter is, while everybody was running around with these headlines saying, "Oh, the Oscars are looking at maybe taking back that Oscar nomination," the Academy never said that. They never said that. If you went back and looked at the statement the Academy put out, they never once mentioned Andrea. They never once mentioned to Leslie. They said, look, in this new era of social media and the online nature, we're going to have to relook at our rules. We're going to have to take a look at this to see what and redefine what we think is appropriate and not appropriate. And again, Peter Hammond at Deadline did a terrific piece on it, putting it in context. So yeah, and listen, having seen the movie now listen, I was a doubter too when Harloff was in here saying, I'm telling you, she deserves to win. I didn't buy it. And then I watched the movie the other night and I'm like, I still think it goes to Cate Blanchett, but I think she might be the second ranked.
I was also listening to NPR at lunch today, and there was a TV critic on that was saying that this kind of thing, Andrea Riseborough's nomination might have taken a nomination away from somebody else. And I'm like, you could say that about anyone, any nominee. I don't think anybody takes there's no such thing as taking a nomination away from somebody else. The
only time I would say that is if that person clearly did not belong there. For example, the year that Christian Bale won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Fighter, he should not have been there. He was the lead actor of that film.
Yes.
And because of that, he should not have been in that list whatsoever. And I believe he did take away a nomination spot from Andrew Garfield for The Social Network. This is in a normal situation like this.
But that's kind of a different thing.
It is a different thing. So in something like this, and how it's different is that you have to make the case that this person was clearly not good in their role.
Right.
And I'm telling you what, after watching the movie, other than Cate Blanchett, I think she's the number one ranked. I think Andrea's the number one ranked. She absolutely 1,000% belongs on that list. Now, some people will then say, well, then how come she wasn't recognized at the other awards bodies? The answer to that is why she almost wasn't recognized here, because nobody had seen the movie.
Right.
I am in this business. I hadn't even heard of the movie.
Well,
so that's why.
One of the things that was said is that the movie was made for an incredibly small sum of money.
And made $27,000.
Yes, and that's the problem. And if anything, I think that her nomination is a triumph for micro-budgeted films that people don't see. Maybe because of this, it'll bring more attention to movies that cost a lot less money, and also people who don't have money to mount Oscar campaigns.
Yeah, see, that's the one thing they cannot take away. I laugh a little bit, actually, at people online get, some actors like posting on social media, they think she should get nominated. That's a no-no. Oh, but studios dropping $250,000 on a billboard for your consideration campaign. That's what, listen, they should be grassroots. It should be something like that. So I mean, again, I agree that the Oscars are going to have to relook at their rules and figure out how to properly adjust them for the modern era of social media. And all. They do. And I think the Andrea thing is going to be the matchstick for that. But I love the fact that there was a movie that nobody had seen, had been under everybody's radar, and then a couple of people saw it and said, this deserves to be recognized, and then busted their ass to get as many people, voters even, to see it. And it turns out she 100% deserves that nomination.
This is not a meme nomination.
No, it is not. That's a good way to put that.
This is a nomination that would have gone unrecognized without people that have seen the movie, that support her as an actress, chimed in.
All right, what's next?
Nelson Afaro says, what do you think about The Last of Us last episode and Oscars happening the same night?
Yeah, I mean, we actually talked about that the other day. Bold choice by HBO. But the reality is it's HBO Max. That means after 6 p.m. our time, local.
Which is 9 p.m. their time.
Which is 9 p.m. I can pop it on whenever I want.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And guess what? I don't believe the Oscars start for us here until 8 p.m. Yeah, 8 p.m. But that's when it traditionally starts, 8 p.m. So guess what? I'm going to be able to sit down, watch the Academy Awards, or watch Last of Us, and
the Oscars start for us at 6.
Oh, that's right. It starts earlier. It starts at 8 p.m. East Coast time. So it starts 5 p.m. here. So yeah, I'm going to be able to watch the Academy Awards. And this isn't like 1994, where if you want to watch Night Court, you got to make sure you're home Thursday at 7 p.m. I don't know if Night Court was on Thursday at 7. I was going to say, by the way, the old Night Court, not the new one. If you wanted to watch Cheers, you had to be home Thursday at 8:30 p.m. That's not the way it is now. I'm going to be able to watch the Oscars as soon as the Oscars are done. load up HBO Max, hit play, and watch Last of Us.
Something tells me, John, that you'll be watching The Last of Us right after the Oscars are over.
I am 100% going to be doing that.
Or you do it the other way around, so you can have the Oscars, and when you have taped them or what, not taped them. See, I'm old. But if you have digitally captured them in some device, you can zip through the commercials.
Yeah. The difference though is, like you want to, as the winners are being announced,
I know.
you want to. That's got to happen to me. That's got to happen real time.
But you're going to catch up with the commercials. You could watch Last of Us at 6, and then by 7 o'clock you're caught up.
Now,
baby.
Last of Us will wait. Last of Us will be there waiting on HBO Max, ready to start as soon as the Oscars are done. Hit play, and I'm good to go.
It's true.
All right, what's next?
Daniel Vakura says, my one big disappointment with the slate is that it's Damian, where Bruce would need to be older. That doesn't make as much sense with a younger Superman. Damian means you need to skip Tim or age people up.
But here's the thing. Look, I'm one of the people that also went with the assumption that they were probably going to try to age equivalency Superman and Batman. But you don't need to.
Nope.
You really don't need to. Like, Batman can be late 30s, early 40s. It's perfectly great. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, remember when they first announced Ben Affleck as Batman, besides everybody laughing at it, one of the problems some people had was like, well, he's going to be older, Ben's in his 40s, blah, blah. And listen, for me personally, and maybe it's because my first real introduction to Batman, other than the old TV show, was the Dark Knight graphic novel. And because that was my first real kind of consumption of the Batman character, to me, Batman always works best in my head as a war-grizzled veteran. To me, the Batman is the one who has been around. He has seen it all. Nothing phases him. It's not, and listen, that's not to say that the Robert Pattinson Batman isn't great. It is great. I love the Robert Pattinson Batman. You know I do. But I actually kind of like the idea of my Batman, particularly in this cinematic universe where there's going to be all these other heroes where, guess what? You got a Batman who ain't impressed.
Right.
A Batman who ain't impressed. I've been around the block, man. So I'm kind of for it. I like it.
I do too. Plus, when Superman shows up, Batman recognizes the danger.
Yeah.
He has the protocols, whether they're, the OMAC protocols or whatever. But yeah.
All right. What's next?
Jonathan Schultz says, with the Constantine sequel having been announced a while back, do you think that this will be one of the other films that eventually goes under the DC Elseworlds umbrella? Thank you.
I said it before. I'll say it again. I'm still not convinced that movie's actually going to happen.
I agree.
I mean, you can develop it. You can do all that kind of stuff. So we're going to try to put this thing together. But Rob, you've pointed out before, there's a difference between going into development and getting a script together, putting up some development money, and then actually greenlighting and putting it in front of a camera. Look, I'm not saying the next Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves is not going to happen. Let's be clear. I'm just simply saying I have a suspicion it's never going to get in front of a camera. But I don't know. We'll see.
And I have to say that I believe that John Constantine, not the Keanu Reeves version, is going to be a part of the Swamp Thing movie because he was originated in the pages of Swamp Thing, and I think it makes sense.
All right.
So
what's next?
Daniel Vakura says, I do find it a bit messy to retain certain actors in roles and say the Waller show is set between Peacemaker seasons 1 and 2. But yet it is a new universe.
Look, Daniel, I am in complete agreement. Look, if it were up to me, and everybody thanks heavens that it's not up to me, but if it were up to me, full reboot. That's what I think the DC universe needs. But I've always said I'll trust James Gunn, whatever way he wants to go. I think he'll find a way to make it work. Here's how it can work, though. Like, think about any of the Marvel stuff or even other DC stuff. When you get into another universe or another reality, a lot of things are the same. Some things are different. Like in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Mordo is still Chiwetel Ejiofor. The other Doctor Stranges is still Benedict Cumberbatch. But in Spider-Man No Way Home, why does that other universe's Peter Parker look like Tobey Maguire? Why does that universe's Peter Parker look like Andrew Garfield? And why in that universe is Captain Marvel Lashana Lynch? So there's already a kind of precedent within the comic book universes, both in DC and in Marvel, that you can say it's a new universe. Some things will be similar. Some things will be different. Again, I would go full reboot and change everything, but there is precedent for it.
Well, it's also like in Batman, there's a Thomas Wayne Batman, in the Flashpoint universe. And it's it depends where you are, that what happens and things change. I mean, there is an infinite, in the DC universe, there's an infinite number of Earths after all.
All right.
And there's going to be a crisis. Again, no, I don't. Dr. J says, is it possible that Jason Momoa may not be Lobo and may actually be another character in one of the new slate of projects?
100%. No one ever said it was going to be. Now, we are all speculating that it's going to be Lobo, but nobody has ever said it's going to be Lobo. Nobody official has ever said it's Lobo or anything like that. Absolutely can be another one of the characters. Here's the catch, though. The reason I don't think that it's for one of the projects that they announced today, and I mentioned this to Rob earlier, is that why wouldn't you announce Jason Momoa since you've already allowed Jason Momoa to get on social media and go, woohoo, I'm a DC for life, baby, and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you're going to let him do that and then make this big announcement, you would think they would just roll in. And by the way, we've got The Authority. And playing The Authority, Jason Momoa will be playing the role of X and X. I mean, it just seems to make sense that they would have done that. Doesn't mean they would have, but it seems to make sense.
I think, though, I really believe that because they have another potential billion-dollar grossing movie in Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, they're not in any hurry to announce anything that he's going to be doing because they have to focus on the movie they have.
All right, what's next?
The OK Channel. I wonder what that's like, the OK Channel. Not the Great Channel, not the OK Channel. It's all right. The world where anything is possible. Do you think a Swamp Thing movie makes an Animal Man show series more likely? Very big fan of The Red. I love Animal Man. I love it. As a matter of fact, I actually pitched to DC to Warner Premiere, when we were doing Hills Run Red, the idea of doing direct-to-video DC movies. It was shot down because they didn't have the purview to make those movies, even though they were doing the animated films. And Animal Man was going to be my lead movie because it's about a family, father who's Animal Man and the family. And to do it, you could do the first 7 issues for cheap. I would love to see an Animal Man movie. Love it. But I think a Swamp Thing movie makes a lot of the Vertigo books possible because, a nexus point between all of those different places.
All right, what's next?
I'm a fan. Tommy Maynard says, Mr. Fantastic casting that takes the cake. Hear me out. Jeremy Strong from Succession.
I don't see it.
He's also very diminutive in stature.
Yeah, which I'm okay with that part. You're right, but I'm okay with that part because Reed Richards, while being often portrayed as in being very good shape and all that kind of stuff, he is first and foremost a bookworm, right? And Jeremy Strong is brilliant in Succession. I also really loved him in The Gentleman as the bad guy. I really liked him in that.
He's great.
I
love him in The Big Short.
I don't see him as Reed Richards, though.
See, I'm going to be honest with you, John. The person he can't be, but the person I see most of all these casting choices that we all talk about is Anson Mount, Captain Pike now. He looks just like Reed Richards to me.
But then wouldn't he look just like Black Bolt?
Well, that's the problem. That's what I mean. They can't cast him. But he looks. I mean, when I watch him on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, all I think about is
Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, that wouldn't be
because he's got the gray already in his hair.
But they can do that with any actor.
I know. But he's just got that. It's his face. He's
also a tremendous actor.
He is a great actor.
He's really, really good.
I mean, I love that guy.
All right, what's next?
Daniel Vacuris says, the most interesting project is The Authority, which is a Justice League level film. Yes. Gunn saying Superman leads into it is interesting when that team has its own Superman already. It works better away from the rest of the DC in its own universe. I just find that to be a strange choice when there are Batman and Superman type characters on the team already. I think that's because they're going to be villains.
But do you start with their own? I mean, the way Peter Safran and James Gunn describe them, it's still that they're good guys.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the Authority were always kind of good guys.
Right.
But I think that what's going to happen is I think the authority is already going to be in place when Superman emerges, like Clark Kent, Superboy becomes Superman or something. Like they're already there. But they're not, they're not the best people.
All right. What's next?
Just Sub 32 says, hey, John and Rob, how many times did you guys see Everything Everywhere all at once? I saw it last weekend, and the stuff about the multiverse was really confusing to me.
And make no mistake about it, it's a film that you got to follow. It's once it gets into the multiversal stuff, it gets pretty heady. Absolutely. I've seen it 3 times. And I love the film. It's my second favorite film of the year of 2022. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's going to take home some hardware at the Oscars. I don't know that it's going to win Best Picture, but who knows? It may. It's going to win some awards. But yeah, I saw it 3 times, fell in love with it the first time, saw it a couple more times after that.
I guess I've seen it. I saw it once in the theater, and I've watched it twice on disc, and I know I have an upcoming screening of it at my house for some people that haven't seen it. So it'll be, I guess, a 4th time.
That'll be nice.
That's a great disc, by the way. Cliff Stevenson worked on it.
All right, what's next?
Kenneth Colton says, I get that DC are busy with this reboot, but on October 2025 release date for the Batman sequel is a long time away. They should have filmed back-to-back and then set a summer or fall 2024 date.
No, 100% they couldn't shoot back-to-back.
During COVID, too. They had hard enough time.
It's not just that. Look, Rob and I have talked about this several times. There are some situations and some IP and some property where shooting back-to-back makes sense. When you have an IP that you already know is going to be a hit, it's already got a proven track record, all that kind of stuff. I thought Dune was a situation where they really should have gone back-to-back. Pirates of the Caribbean shot a couple back-to-back. Matrix was a massive hit, so they shot Matrix 2 and 3 back-to-back. I would submit that while the Batman worked out great, there were so many hurdles in front of it that it would have been, I think, a miscalculation. It would have worked out, but that's just getting lucky. It would have been poor planning and I think a poor decision to shoot that back-to-back because, again, you never knew. Like, is the audience going to embrace the Robert Pattinson Batman? Are they going to shirk away from it? Is the whole idea of this darker, grittier, non-super-powered world, is this going to be something that the audience grasps onto as heavier adult fare, or is it going to come across as, hey, where's my flying superheroes? Like, there's just so many questions. And were people going to go, wait a minute, I thought Ben Affleck was Batman. What's going on? You just didn't know. Shooting that back-to-back. Now, do I think they should have gotten moving on the sequel faster? Yes. But 3 years in between a movie and its sequel, while longer, is not unprecedented, right? So I wish it would be coming 2024, but I don't think they should have shot this back-to-back, Rob.
All this, I don't either. There's no way they could have done it. And also the studio was and still is in massive flux. You had AT&T there mucking up things. Then AT&T wanted to sell it. Then you had Discovery come in. So there's been about a 3-year period of tumult that's still happening at Warner Brothers where things aren't settling down. And I think this is really Discovery's first. They're planting their flag going, okay, you've had multiple owners over the last couple of years. Here, this release of a DC slate it's David Zaslav and Discovery saying, look, Warner Brothers, calm down. Here's our plan. We're going to implement this plan into 2025 and 2026 and 2027, which shows that for the very first time, things are calm and there's leadership at the top that is moving forward decisively, which is something that's what James Gunn was also alluding to, that the administration before was all over the place.
Yes, they were.
So now we've got something that isn't. So it's exciting. I think it's really exciting.
All right, what's next?
Attack of the Mushi says, how important is the casting for Superman? On screen and off, do we need an exemplary person? Not someone who will get in legal trouble. Cough, Ezra.
Well, I think any role, you don't want somebody getting in the type of trouble that Ezra Miller's been getting themselves into. I mean, that's for any role. There are certain roles, like for instance, we were talking the other day about Phoebe Waller-Bridge is writing a Tomb Raider series for Amazon, right? Like, listen, you got to nail the casting of Lara Croft. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to nail the casting of Superman. Of course, you want to get the absolute best person that you can. But Superman as a type, I think there's a lot of actors who could step into those boots and do a really, really good job. I mean, obviously, I wish it was Henry Cavill, but not being that, listen, every studio now does heavy vetting, not petting, vetting of actors they bring in now because it affects their projects, it affects their bottom lines. Every actor they bring on, they're getting a college intern to go through that actor's social media history going back 15 years, make sure there's nothing that can come up and bite them in the ass, all that kind of stuff. So for no role do you want that, but you certainly don't want it for Superman.
Right.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Daniel Vakura says, the rest of DC is in its own universe. I just find that to be a strange choice. Oh, I already read that. That's one of two. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Jonathan Schultz says, if the Lantern show is primarily Earthbound, do you think we could see later on a follow-up where they delve into space but on a film level?
Yeah, they could. I'm going to be in the minority here. I'm not as interested in the galactic adventures of Green Lantern. I'm kind of more interested in the Earthbound adventures of Green Lantern. I understand that puts me in the minority, but I kind of want this one to be more terrestrial based.
You know what? Look, I got to agree with you here because I think they're going to touch on it. I can imagine they're going to have to show where these guys came from or something. I think it's really interesting that they're going with the fact that they're having Jon Stewart with the military. He's a Marine, I think they said. And so you got a Marine, you got Air Force, test pilot, whatever. I think that's really interesting. And I love the idea that these guys, like what they didn't say is they didn't say if they were already Lanterns at the beginning of the show.
Right.
So what if they're part of an investigative unit what if they're, I don't know, they come together to investigate something, a mystery, like Project UFO or something, Project Blue Book, where you've got these two guys from we're already investigating UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. What if these are two guys and they have to team up? Maybe they don't like each other. Maybe there's some kind of tension and the discovery leads them into something. I mean, I don't know, but it could be I can't wait for the show. And like you, I think the Earthbound nature of it to start with is going to be good. I like that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You guys suck here.
Okay. Tell us how you really
Green
feel,
Lantern
right?
in space, probably the only DC guys that
we're going to get that. We're going to get it.
Imagine him flying to another planet that shot and then dealing with the way things are on this certain planet. Not
You know what
like
that is, though?
That'd be like Nova.
That's a movie. That's not an HBO series.
No,
I think that's a movie.
I'm telling you, it's going to be. We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
You need to respect space.
Respect space, damn it. All right, what's next?
Connor Thorne says, since Damian Wayne is going to be in the new DC Universe Batman movie, do you think Ra's al Ghul will be the villain? I personally do. Thanks, and keep up the good work.
Listen, Ra's al Ghul is, in my estimation, one of the truly great Batman foils. It's like the only, not Superman, not Wonder Woman, not Darkseid, not nothing. There's one being that Batman fears. It's Ra's al Ghul. That instantly makes him classic. And if they stick with kind of like the comic origins of Damian and like that, hey, Grandpa,
Talia too. Talia comes.
Absolutely.
Ra's al Ghul.
Talia has to be a part of it. Here's what I think. I don't think Ra's al Ghul's the villain of it. I think Ra's al Ghul maybe has an appearance in it, is this figure that's in the background, but I don't think they make him the villain per se.
I'll tell you what I loved about this, John, is the fact that they brought up specifically the Batman family. We haven't seen that certainly Christopher Nolan's movies, Batman was a loner. In Batman v Superman, the Zack Snyder movies, Batman's a loner.
Well, there was a Jason Todd.
Yeah, yes, there was, but not we didn't see the family dynamic. Now, we did see, I hate to say this, but we did see a lot of that in Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin.
Yep.
Interaction between Batgirl, but this is this plants the flag saying, okay, what are we going to do about Batman that's going to be new and different? And I like this. We've got this supporting cast of characters that make the dynamic of the on-screen Batman different than what we've been getting for the last 20 years. And I think that was important. It's part of what they wanted to do.
All right. What's next?
Fierce Isaac says, fan cast idea, John Krasinski is Superman.
I love John Krasinski. I could see him in a lot. He's got kind of that everyman face.
Yep.
Good-looking everyman face, but he's got that everyman kind of way about him and face that he could be a lot of different things. I don't see him as Superman.
I don't either.
Yeah. But listen, again, to me, the bottom line is it comes down to acting talent. And so if they announced John Krasinski, well, he's a great talent. Therefore, I'd be okay with it. But if you were to ask me before doing that, I would say, nah, maybe find somebody else. He'd be great for a million things, just maybe not that one.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Daniel Vakura says, I think they're going to build to Justice League versus the Authority, where the teams are very similar, with your classic heroes versus the brutal ones. Batman versus Midnighters, Superman versus Apollo. One team doesn't hold back. I think that's exactly what they're doing.
Well, what does that kind of sound like? It sounds a little bit like Kingdom Come.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah.
In philosophy, right?
Yep.
Where the one generation of superheroes is like, look, new gen superheroes, you're doing it wrong and you're getting people hurt and this is the wrong, and they go to war. I mean, this is the basic. If you guys haven't read, by the way, I just said the
Kingdom
name.
Come.
Yeah, Kingdom Come. If you guys haven't read Kingdom Come, by the way, what is the name of that one YouTube channel? Comics. Is it Comics Explained? With the bigger guy who kind of runs that? Yeah, he's got this. He's got kind of like a jolly voice kind of thing. Anyway, he's got a fabulous. If you don't want to read the whole thing, he's got a fabulous 45-minute breakdown of the story of Kingdom Come. But anyway,
but you should read it because it's so good,
and the art in it is fantastic and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that's definitely a story they could. Like Marvel does, where Marvel never actually does the comic book story, but they take themes from the comics and then bring those themes into the movies. That is something that James Gunn could be doing here, saying, look, we're not doing Kingdom Come per se, but the themes of Kingdom Come is so good, it's something we can do within our cinematic universe. Because here's the thing, if you wanted to do a Kingdom Come movie, it would have to be an Elseworlds movie. Or you could take the themes of Kingdom Come and adapt it into something else where it becomes your main. Hence, hey, listen, and if you were doing that, the name of the phase, Gods and Monsters, becomes very, very applicable. So, I don't know, we'll see. All right, what's next?
The Collector 89 says, I don't know why, but in my head I pictured James Gunn's version of Damian Wayne to be like Judo Master. I can see him eating chips and then bad-mouthing someone and beating him up. Laugh out loud.
Yep, except Judo Master is an 11.
Yeah.
That's Judo Master is a quote-unquote full-grown man. By the way, I love the Judo Master.
I do too.
Character, I thought he was
I do
great.
too.
Again, listen, there's ways, I've said this for 10 years now, there are ways to do Robin in a live-action thing that is not completely accurate to the comics, but that can absolutely work. And out of all of them, Damian Wayne is probably the most fascinating one that you can go with. All right, what's next?
Daniel Vakura says, Gods and Monsters is a great tagline for the Chapter 1 slate. It's the same name as a great Elseworlds DC animated Justice League film with Superman as Zod's son.
Yeah, somebody brought that up earlier today.
Yeah.
About that, which I'm sure, listen, I don't know that there's anybody they could have found to run DC that has more actual real world comic book knowledge than James Gunn does.
No, there isn't.
I mean, this is what he gets up in the morning. He eats a bowl of cereal. He drinks his coffee and he reads comic books. That's what the guy's done his whole life. So I think in every little nook and cranny that's going to come up in the new DCU, you're going to be able to draw some Easter eggs and comparisons and inspiration where it came from, like a lot of the older comic book stories and the animated stuff. All right, what's next?
Cash says, when do you think we'll get another Suicide Squad?
I don't think we are. I
think that's what the Waller series would do if we're at all. They'll touch on that.
Yeah, listen. They made a very high profile Suicide Squad movie that most people hated. Then they made an absolutely fabulous Suicide Squad movie, which nobody saw. I think they might be Suicide Squadded out.
And look, they're calling it Team Peacemaker.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what they've rebranded the Suicide Squad as.
Well, remember, Team Peacemaker is that group that was with Peacemaker.
Yeah,
right?
of
Like
course.
We're going to see. Well, by the way, the guy in Peacemaker who's like the bigger computer nerd with the beard and the glasses. I can't remember the name of the character, but you put him in a show I'll watch because I ended up loving that character. He had some of the best dialogue, best deliveries. And by the way, that same actor, while Sylvester Stallone did the voice of King Shark, that actor from Peacemaker did the actual mocap for King Shark. Yep. He was the physical kind of guy of King Shark. All right, what's next?
Daniel Vicora says, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, with that source material could be incredible. Tom King losing out on New Gods, but getting to do that is not bad for him.
Man, remember that when there was going to be a New Gods movie
with Anna DuVernay and Tom King writing directing
it, and he was writing the script with her. I'm not going to lie to you. I lost no sleep over the fact that particular project got scrapped. That didn't sound. Forget who was attached to it. I didn't think New Gods sounded like something the DCU should have been doing at the time. Anyway, but clearly they liked his work.
Yep,
because he's still on board there. So this could
I think
be really
it's
good.
based on his series.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of thing that I think we're going to see more of anyway.
I agree. All right, what's next?
Jonathan Schultz says, people concerned about the older Batman remember Downey was 42-3 when cast as Tony Stark and played the role over a decade in several films. We'll be just fine.
There is a fundamental difference, though. Look, I'm on your side, right? But to play devil's advocate, there is a fundamental difference between playing a character where all the action and all that kind of stuff is going to be done in CGI at Iron Man versus somebody who's going to actually be playing the Batman. Now, again, I agree. I think somebody can still step in there. Look at Dave Bautista. He's 54 years old, and he is a monster. You can get somebody 43, 44, 45 years old right now and still have them be our Batman for another decade.
Yeah, or even go 38.
Yeah, so that's the point, though. But again, the Robert Downey Jr. comparison is Robert Downey Jr. just had to act, right? Everything else was pretty much done in CGI, so it's not really something you had to worry about. And even when he wasn't, like, you didn't have to believe it because it was the Iron Man mask on him the whole time.
Right.
All right, what's next?
Jonathan Schultz says, nope, that's not what Jonathan Schultz says. Cash says, maybe the Superman Idris Elba put in the ICU was never Henry. Now that I think of it, James Gunn probably had been planning this setup for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it was always interesting that you shot Superman with the kryptonite bullet. I never liked that line because, first of all, Superman would have heard the shot and then could have sat down, drank a cup of tea, and then moved out of the way of the bullet. But whatever it is. But that's a very interesting theory. What if that Superman that he shot was never our Henry Cavill Superman? That is actually a really, really cool theory.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. So maybe James Gunn is going to be able to exploit little things like that have been in the DCU already to kind of say part of it. Look, they might even say Waller. They've always been in this other universe that James Gunn is about to inherit now.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, there you go. Okay, listen, guys, we still have more to get to here, but before we keep going on, we're going to take a second and hear from a couple of our sponsors. Who's our sponsor today?
Fume and MasterClass.
Our friends at Fume and MasterClass.
Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Fume. Be smart. Don't start. Kick the habit. Put it out before it puts you out. All phrases we've heard 100 times, and yet we still continue to have bad habits. Today's sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. You see, Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. Because instead of pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals like a vape, Fume uses cores infused with plants like peppermint and cinnamon for delicious natural flavors. And Fume's new version 2 model is snappy and tactile. With an adjustable airflow dial and a magnetic end cap, your fingers will always have something to do. The device itself is really attractive, and once I popped in the core and took my first inhale of it, it tasted fantastic. Guys, the easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed to perfectly do just that. So head over to tryfume.com and use the promo code Campea to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors and the new version 2 Fume to help kickstart your positive habits. That's tryfume, TRYFUM.com, and use the code Campea to save an additional 10% off your order today. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, MasterClass. MasterClass offers classes on a wide variety of topics, all taught by world-class instructors at the very top of their fields. Each class is broken out into individual video lessons, usually around 10 minutes long. And MasterClass is completely accessible on your phone, the web, smart TV, and available via audio mode to listen to classes on the go. They have over 2,500 video lessons from over 180 of today's most brilliant minds. They're all available anytime, anywhere on iOS, Android, desktop, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. Now, obviously around here on the John Campea Show, we love our movies, so why not learn filmmaking from Jodie Foster, or maybe directing from Ron Howard himself, or the great Neil Gaiman doing his masterclass on the art of storytelling. And you guys have heard me talk about my favorite masterclass, Business Strategy and Leadership by Big Papa Iger himself, Bob Iger, the new and returning CEO of Disney. So guys, I highly recommend that you check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as a John Campea Show listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Just go to masterclass.com/Campea now. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off Masterclass. And thank you to our friends at Fume and MasterClass for sponsoring this episode of Open Mic. All right, guys, with that down, let's keep going on your questions here, shall we? Rob, what do we got up next?
Cinema Reviews says, highly recommended, the new Indian spy thriller Pathan. I keep hearing about this. Best description I can give is Mission Impossible done in the style of the Fast and the Furious.
Isn't Fast and Furious already done in the style of a Mission Impossible? But all right. I honestly, I don't follow Indian cinema a lot. I should follow it more. I still remember back in the AMC, I might have mentioned this before, back in the AMC days, I was actively trying to develop a weekly Indian cinema version of Movie Talk for AMC, because at AMC, we had started a screening program at AMC where we were showing a lot of Indian film at a number of AMC locations across the country. And we had come up with this idea of creating a Movie Talk. And I was already, we were getting so close to it. I had already started the casting process. I was looking for somebody to be the Indian John Campea to host that version of Movie Talk, and a couple of co-hosts. And we had started that search and everything. Ultimately, our funding fell through and we didn't get to do the show, but I thought they would have been really fun to do.
And now more than ever with Indian TV shows and Indian movies, and that's, we still can.
All right, well, I can. I don't have the money for it, but yes. All right, what's next?
Dr. Bright says, so since this is a 10-year DC plan, do you think Gunn and Peter's contracts will be renewed?
Well, look, I remember when a certain person gets a contract, say it's a 3-year contract. Ooh, guess most of these executives, their contracts are limited like that.
Yeah.
It just gives the company more flexibility. It gives the executives more flexibility. Yeah, their contract's going to be renewed. They're going to do their contract. It's going to get removed, barring any unforeseen things. I don't know, maybe James Gunn goes through some kind of personal tragedy and decides he wants to step away, or who knows? But yes, the contracts will absolutely be renewed. All right, what's next?
Mike Dude says, could Anthony Starr be a solid reverse Flash? Seems like he'd be perfect in the role, in my opinion. Also, Homelander has glowing red eyes sometimes, so does reverse Flash.
Yeah, because that's really important. No, look, here's the thing. There's no point in trying to say, could this person be a good that role, when we don't know how that role would be written.
Right.
It's always come from a place of we as fans, and I do it, you do it, we all do it. What happens is we as fans have a certain model of a character in our head and what that character would look like, sound like, talk like, move like, what their motivations would be. But 98 times out of 100, the screen version actually turns out a bit different, often for the better, sometimes for the worse, but turns out to be different than the model we had in our head, right? It's the reason why when Christopher Nolan was looking for a Joker, nobody thought Heath Ledger, because we all had either Jack Nicholson's Joker in our head or a certain comic version of the Joker in our head. We did not know what Christopher Nolan had in mind. And maybe if we did, and we had read the scripts, maybe there wouldn't have been so many people against Brokeback Mountain Boy being the Joker, because he was perfect for it. But none of us knew that, because none of us had a concept of what his Joker was going to be like. And so we can say Anthony Starr would be a great Reverse Flash. First of all, Anthony Starr is a great actor, so he could probably do quite well in any role, but we don't know what Reverse Flash would be like in any particular iteration, so it's hard to say.
And I don't want to see Anthony Starr stop playing Homelander anytime soon. So
yeah, and by the way, and maybe Anthony Starr needs to move away from the genre.
Yeah,
and like get his name big for playing Homelander, because he's fantastic, and then expand and do something else. His agents may not want him to jump right back into more comic book material.
Yeah, no.
All right, what's next?
Zach Taylor says, the one little gripe I had, and so did Stephen King, about episode 3 was, does anyone really think that the woods were 10 miles away from Boston? Laugh out loud.
I hadn't thought about that. You know what? I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't know. I'm Canadian. You live in Toronto, you're 10 miles away from heavy forests and woods.
Well, yeah, and also remember, it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like 20 years of growth.
All right, what's next?
Jonathan Schultz says, tipping my hat to JG today for emphasizing how important story and writing is at the end of that video. That's James Gunn. Gives me a lot of hope.
Well, who is James Gunn? He's a writer.
He's a novelist.
He's a novelist. He's a comic book writer. He's a screenplay writer. He's a director. And that is one of the big reasons why I got very excited. Not that every writer and director would be a good studio executive, but one of the reasons I got really excited about James Gunn doing this is because he does bring that into the executive suite, right? And let's not forget, he did hold his position with, albeit a short time, with Kevin Feige, kind of shepherding a different angle of the MCU. He's the right guy for this. And pairing him up with Peter Safran to fill in those other areas that maybe that James isn't strong in, I think those two are going to be a, pardon the pun, dynamic duo. I think they're going to make some great content. I think we're going to get some great films. You never know. Maybe it'll turn out to be a car wreck. But that's why I was very excited to hear about him taking over, and just the fact that he brings a writer's mindset to the executive suite. He brings a director's mindset to the executive suite. I think that's very encouraging, and we'll see how it works out. All right, what's next?
Dante Sorecchia says, in brightest day, in blackest night, I am so hyped.
Yep.
Good.
Listen,
the lanterns.
I am very curious to see how they're going to handle. You were talking about a little bit earlier. Where in the span of their experiences do we come across Hal Jordan and John Stewart in this thing? Is John Stewart the grizzled vet, or is Hal Jordan chronologically? Hal Jordan should be the vet, right? He should be the one who's been a Green Lantern the longest,
unless they're contemporaries.
They're contemporaries, or they reverse it.
Yeah,
right. Do we got a Riggs and Murtaugh situation here? I mean, who knows? But it's going to be really interesting.
It's going to be. There are no lanterns here, but now there are.
All right, what's next?
Now there are. Zach Taylor says, I think I can never watch that episode again. I was tearing up. I hope I can find a love like Frank and Bill had someday.
Listen, jump back. For those of you who don't know who he's talking about, he's talking about episode 3 of The Last of Us, which is one of the greatest episodes of TV I've seen in a long time. I mean, yeah, it's powerful. It's beautiful. It's moving. It differs from the video game, yet borrows from the video game. I mean, a lot of people complain they made Bill gay. Guess what? Bill's gay in the video game. But yeah, it's powerful, powerful, powerful episode. I cannot wait. You know, Ray put it best. Ray was like, I can't remember the last time I was this excited about a next episode of TV.
Yeah, I know.
And it's true. Like, I am positively salivating for the next episode, because even that little teaser at the end, the next time on The Last of Us, I'm like, oh, come on, play this right now. Cannot wait. It's going to be great. All right, what's next?
Leonardo Julian says, not going to lie, planning and the diversity of projects is aces in my book. Really excited about the Lanterns TV show and reading all the crying insecure man babies when The Authority is released.
Well, you know where that's, yeah, we already know where that's going to come from.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. I said on the show the other day that when a movie is bad that has a gay character, a female lead character, an Asian character, a black character, when those movies are bad, 95% of the time, it ain't because they have a gay character or a black character or an Asian character, just because the movie wasn't very good. Just like when we have lots and lots and lots and lots of very bad movies that are straight, white men led movies. It's not because it's led by straight white men. It's just turned out to be a bad movie. In the same way that if you make a movie with a gay lead character or a minority lead character, that doesn't mean the movie's going to be good. Doesn't mean it will be at all. But listen, the bottom line is this. You don't have to like a movie where there is a visibly minority character leading it. You don't have to. And that's fine. I've got tons of movies that I don't like that happen to have either gay lead characters, female characters, black characters, Asian characters, white characters, whatever. But when it becomes clear and evident, look, I'm going to let you know a little secret.
Uh-oh.
All right.
We're getting in trouble.
When it becomes clear and evident that your reason for not liking it, like, listen, you're allowed to not like movies, but when you make it clear that the reason you don't like a movie is because you're a piece of shit and like you just think black people should stay in their place, you just think Asian people should stay in their place, you think gay people should be hidden in a closet somewhere, you think all this type of shit. Well, if you're just a giant bag of shit and you make it obvious, and here's how you make it obvious. The minute I'm reading anybody's like a user review, as soon as they use the word woke, as soon as that comes out of somebody's mouth, I'm like, human piece of trash. I can identify it quickly and easily. So I'm going to let you know a little secret. I have it set up. I set up a thing on YouTube where if anybody uses the term woke in our comments section, YouTube automatically shadow bans them from my channel. Because I just know that person has nothing to offer a conversation. Nothing to offer a conversation at all. Now, again, that doesn't mean you can't like stuff. Queen Latifah's Equalizer show is garbage. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible show. But it's not terrible because Queen is being led by a black woman.
I was
That's
going to
not
say,
why it's
because
bad.
I love my girl, Queen Latifah.
I love Queen Latifah, but it's a bad show.
She sets
and there's
me off.
nothing wrong with not liking a show that is gaily. Look, you didn't like Bros because you didn't find it funny? No problem with that. You didn't like Woman King because you didn't find the story to be engaging and interesting or emotionally resonant? I got no problem with that. But it's when people tip their hand and make it clear that, oh, I don't like that. Why? Because gay people don't have a right to exist. That's when you're just a human sack of shit and I don't pay any attention to you because you're garbage.
What's interesting, what I find interesting about like the Authority and the Milestone universe and the DC universe of the Milestone universe created by like the great Dwayne McDuffie before he passed away. That was a group of comics that was about black characters, the Milestone universe. The Authority, when it was created, Apollo and Midnighter were always gay from the beginning. That was 30 years ago.
Right.
And people make it sound like now, but those comics had great stories to tell. And the characters were very beautifully drawn. And that's why they resonate 30 years later. Like you, I do not care what color a character is. I do not care what their sexuality is. I don't care. Give me a great character in a story well told.
And here's the thing. If we're going to tell these stories that are reflective of the world we live in, as much as some people want to deny it, gay people live among us. As much as we want to deny it, people with blonde hair live among us. People with brown eyes or blue eyes or are black or are Asian or Italian or whatever. The whole idea, like, see, there's just such a group out there amongst us that has this agenda of exclusion.
Except for redheads.
Well, like say, yeah, well, obviously,
I never
except for
exclude redheads.
but that have an agenda of exclusion, that want to make sure that all visible minorities stay in their place and not be allowed to play roles or be acknowledged or have their existence acknowledged or whatever. And like, I'm sorry, but you're just a troglodyte of a bygone, forgotten era that needs to be burned in the annals of history. And I did say anals.
The annals of history.
It needs to be burned in the
Story of my
annals of
life.
history. So, I mean, it is what it is. And I don't know if you can tell. I just don't have any patience for that. Again, it goes back to look, I get it. I'm old fashioned. I'm Italian. I just wish, I just don't know what happened to men. And men just don't exist anymore. We got these pansy ass little bitches out there who don't know what it is to be a man anymore. They're completely fragile and secure. It's like, oh no, the gays are coming. Oh no, the black people are coming. Oh. See, real men are secure. Real men don't get threatened by the presence or prosperity of others around them. Real men want to stand up for people who are underrepresented or mistreated or what. That's what real men are. But we have a society today, and unfortunately it has some bearing and some roots in the film fan community as well, where, you know, it's, let's lower the standard of what it is to be a man. Let's say the standard of being a man now is being a fearful little mouse rat or a titmouse. There we'll go.
No, that's a great company.
Yeah, Titmouse is a great company.
I love their animated
nonetheless,
work. John Schnepp worked there.
That now it's the standard of being a man is being this frightened little fearful titmouse. Where be afraid of that, be afraid of that. Oh no, the gays, be afraid of that. Oh no, a woman, ooh, be afraid of that. And so what they do is they create this culture of fear, and they tell other pseudo men, "Hey, are you a weak little spineless dickwad too? Come on over here. We have a different definition of what it is to be a man. We get to be fearful and cuddle in our little circles and be scared of them and be scared of them and have no self-security." And it's just, again, I get it. I'm old fashioned. I grew up in an Italian family. I grew up around a lot of Italian, Portuguese, working road construction crews and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, man. To me, just it's laughable what people define as manhood these days. Anyway, that's just me. All right. What's next?
Corey M says, I'm feeling kind of iffy on the DC Universe news. I'm fine with the Elseworld stuff, but was hoping that they would wipe the slate clean and do a full reboot. Oh, I think they are.
I mean, I can. By the way, is our internet down?
Or I've got excellent connection.
We're streaming. Great. It's probably just my laptop.
You've been shadow banned.
I have, yeah, my own thing. I can't open the ESPN because I've been shadow banned. I agree. I was kind of thinking they would and should do a clean reboot, full reboot, all that kind of stuff, but they didn't. So let's see what the plan is. Let's see what they're going to do. Listen, again, it just all comes down to, do I trust James Gunn or not? And while I cannot speak for everybody, I'll speak for myself. I trust James Gunn. And look, am I a little off put by you're keeping some people, but you didn't keep Henry? Yeah, I admit I'm a little off put by that. Am I a little bit nervous about them bringing in a 10 or 11-year-old Damian Wayne Robin? A little bit nervous about that. Probably won't. Probably more like what you said, probably going to be 16 years old, which will be fine. Look, I'm a James Gunn fanboy. I ain't a blind James Gunn fanboy, though.
Right.
But I do trust him. And if he's got a plan for this, I want to see what it's going to be.
Makes sense.
All right. What's next?
Leonardo Guillen says,
I think it's Guillen.
What is it?
Guillen.
Guillaume.
Oh, is it
Guillaume?
Guillaume? Oh,
It's
is it Guillaume? Is it
Oh,
Guillaume?
no, sorry.
No, it's Guillen.
I thought you were reading a different
Leonardo,
name.
Leonardo Guillen. Is that? I hope I got it right.
Because we
Okay.
have a viewer named Guillaume.
We have a yes.
But
we have
and
Guillaume. That's
I
his
didn't
first
see the name
name.
on the screen. Yes, so I thought you were reading out somebody
Guillaume.
else's name.
Guillen. Okay, Leonardo Guillen. The French. On the other hand, so basically everybody is invited to reprise their role except Henry. Maybe they don't want to throw shade while their projects are still to be released.
Well, there's two things to keep in mind here. Number one, James Gunn and Peter Safran never said anybody else was coming back.
Right.
They said the door is still open, right? That's what they said specifically. Now, maybe they all come back, maybe they don't. But they did not say they were all coming out, said the door. But James Gunn did say in an interview, saying, look, the Superman we're doing, it just wasn't Henry. They say, now James Gunn went out and really said, I love Henry. I think he's fantastic. But the Superman story we have in mind is just, it's just not the right fit for Henry. And again, I am going to withhold judgment until I see what's going on, because I am feeling a little butthurt as a Henry Cavillite, as a Henry Cavill fan. I'm a little bit butthurt that, well, why could you maybe keep, like, listen, I get it that, you know, the Superman movies that Henry Cavill in never really performed to their potential. But Zachary Levi's Shazam made $300 and something million. Henry Cavill's made double. That being said, let's see what the idea is. We have very, very, very little information right now. So I'm going to withhold judgment until we get a bigger picture of what's going on. And again, I base it on that I trust James Gunn. So we'll see. All right, what's next?
Amin says, if you had to give a Best Acting award for only one of the performances in episode 3 of The Last of Us, would you give it to Murray Bartlett or Nick Offerman?
Nick Offerman. Because Nick Offerman was, the character of Bill is the one that had to go through the transformation. The Bill had to go through a metamorphosis and an evolution, if you will. Listen, the Frank character was wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And, you know, Chris pointed out the other day that Bill changed Frank too. But Offerman had to give us a character who was so far one way and then came so far the other way and made it believable and emotionally resonant. The whole transformation, I'd have to give it to Nick Offerman.
And, you know, he was alone for 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, poor Bill.
Yep. All right, what's next?
Zach Taylor says, I read Jeff Schneider's report and it said Superman is going to public domain in 10 years. That's a surprise.
Yeah, it won't. Here's the thing. Mickey Mouse was supposed to go into public domain 5 different times. And every single time, big lobbying happened, all that kind of stuff. And guess what? Mickey Mouse still ain't in the public domain. I don't believe that Superman will ever make it. They will come up with a way. They will come up with lobbying. It ain't going to go public.
Another thing, if Superman goes in the public domain, let's say it does, Superman can't do things like the character of Superman as created could not fly.
Nope. So their Superman would not be able to fly.
So there's all this stuff that they couldn't necessarily do. Now you could do like Sherlock Holmes. There's many different versions. You can do Sherlock with Lucy Liu and what's his face from Trainspotting on TV or something like that. You could do that, but okay, who's going to pay for that? And who's going to watch that?
Thor is in the public domain.
Thor's in the public domain.
You and I tomorrow we could go to lunch and write a full Thor script. The only thing we would not be allowed to do is that we could create new ideas that are connected to Thor, and we could take the original mythology of Thor. But what we could not do, let's say Mjolnir, I don't think this is true, but let's say Mjolnir was never a part of the original Thor lore. And that's something that Marvel made up, Marvel made up back in the 60s.
Yeah, Marvel made it up.
Then we could make a Thor film, but we could not include Mjolnir. We couldn't include anything that somebody else came up with. A great example of this was Sam Raimi's Wizard of Oz movie, Oz the Great and Powerful, where like they could use the original book, but you know what wasn't in the original book? The ruby slippers.
Right.
And so because the ruby slippers were not in the original book, it was actually put into this story later on by somebody else. They couldn't have the ruby slippers. So it's an interesting kind of game of chess that you're playing there with that.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Amin says, has requirements for what's eligible for best animated film at the Oscars changed? Because how does Marcel the Shell get nominated, but not the Lego Movie or Lion King?
Lego Movie never failed to get a nomination because of any technical thing. It's just it didn't get adjudicated as being good enough, which was bullshit because I thought that year the Lego Movie was the front runner to win the damn thing and it didn't get. But yeah, that had nothing to do with it. I am very confused about the Marcel the Shell with Shoes On nomination. I haven't had a chance to look into it, but that should not be considered traditionally that shouldn't be considered an animated movie. So I'm not really sure.
It's very odd.
Like Lion King was an animated movie. There was one shot. Did you know which one it was? There was one shot that wasn't animated. Like not one scene, one shot.
Was the opening sunset or something?
That's exactly what it was. The opening sunset. Yeah, the sun's coming. That's exactly what was that?
Could you do it one more time?
I need to capture it for my new ringtone.
Yeah.
Somebody just did.
But it should have been classified as it was an animated. Everybody calls it the live action Lion King. It was not live action. It's a fully animated movie.
Fully animated thing. Yep.
But how Marcel qualifies for it, I don't know. I need to ask some people about that. Anyway.
Cute. It's just cute.
All right, what's next?
Cash says, end credits of The Flash, Ezra Miller will return.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah, right.
That will not happen. I'll tell you what. I'll say right here. I will say right now.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Here we go.
Here it comes.
Gonna do it.
It's my bet with the universe.
And Ray's hot toy.
If Ezra Miller gets brought back to play Flash again, I will do what I did when I was in high school as a professional breakdancer. I will shave Flash lightning bolts into the side of my head.
Oh.
And now I won't keep it there forever. I will keep it there maybe for a week, but for a week, I will have Flash lightning bolts shaved into the side of my head. That is how confident I am that they are not bringing Ezra Miller back. They can say all the right things now. Oh, you know what? We'll have those conversations later. We just want Ezra to focus on their healing and they're getting better and all that. They can say all that now. And that's great. That's the right thing to say. They ain't bringing Ezra Miller back.
No. Here's my request, Ezra. If you are watching, please be on your best behavior. Just be good the rest of your life, and just give this to us. Just give this to us.
Just give this to us. Everything else will be forgiven. Whatever. Just give this to us.
I just want to be able to bring my hot toy of Ezra Miller here and put it on my desk without fear of reprisal.
All right. What's next?
Jeffrey Hemphill says, James Wan should make the Swamp Thing movie and bring elements of the TV show such as Blue Devil and the Phantom Stranger to the DC universe. I think whoever's going to make it, I think they're going to do just that.
All right. What's next?
I really do. Santiago Lugo says, thoughts on Christopher Nolan's The Prestige?
Love the movie. Not a fan of how it ends.
No.
It's a brilliant film right up until The Prestige is revealed. I'm like, come on.
I have it in 4K.
Other than that, I love the movie. Other than that ending, I love the movie. All right, what's next?
Cash said, what's an unpopular opinion you wish you didn't have?
Blade Runner isn't very good.
I
wish I could be like, listen, everybody considers Blade Runner to be, not 2049, I love 2049, but everybody considers Blade Runner to be one of the true great all-time classic sci-fi films, and I have never liked it, and I wish I did. I wish I could be on board with everybody else with that. Do you have one?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Probably, I wish I didn't like Star Trek the Motion Picture as much as I do.
All right, what's next?
Dan's Production says, have you ever thought about streaming on Rumble as well? In terms of an alternative platform, if YouTube doesn't work out?
I don't even know what Rumble is.
It is an alternative platform in case this doesn't work out.
Because I'm familiar with Twitch and I'm familiar with a bunch of them. I'm not familiar with Rumble. Well, listen, the very fact that I haven't heard of Rumble tells me there's not a lot of people there. So I don't know, maybe, listen, I have thought about a lot of different things. I have honestly thought in the past about just shutting down the YouTube channel and doing it just podcast. Like I have honestly thought, because you know how much easier life would be if it was if the show was just an audio only podcast.
Yes, I know exactly how much easier it would be.
Yeah, it would be significantly easier. I thought for a little while about taking it to Twitch. That's just not a very good option. I've thought about different things like that. I thought about making the channel a Patreon only thing, where I did think about this. Remember back when there was this panic was striking the YouTube community because it looked like the whole thing about you had to denote whether this video is made for children, and if YouTube adjudicated against you, you could be fined.
It was the Y2K of YouTube.
Yeah, it was the Y2K of YouTube, and everybody thought their channels were going to hell. Well, I actually thought for a while about making the John Campea Show a Patreon only show, where it was like, hey, listen, even if we only kept one out of every 20 people who watches the show, we would actually make more money doing it that way and making it more more of a closed door group. Opted against it. So no, listen, at some point I'm going to retire.
We're going to Peacock, baby.
Yeah, that's it. We're going to Peacock. You know what? Pluto TV.
Yeah.
We need a channel on
Freebie
Pluto
or Freebie, whatever it's
TV.
called.
That's where this show should live. I don't know. But Rumble is something I've looked at, obviously, but I have thought a lot about alternative platforms just in case something goes wrong with YouTube. All right, what's next?
Lando says,
Amanda saying OnlyFans. That's right. John Campea Show will be an OnlyFans exclusive.
we'll get rich. Do you think we get Brainiac in the Superman Legacy?
No.
I don't either.
Nope. I don't.
You never know.
And we same reasons why I don't think he's going to show up in the Supergirl thing either. Yet. Brainiac will come.
Yeah.
I just don't think yet. All right, what's
agree.
next?
Vicster, how you doing? I hope you're better these days. 5001 says, I just watched To Leslie, a worthy Oscar nominee. We need more indies getting nominated. I totally agree.
Listen, again, I was not a believer. I thought, come on, really? All right, so I sat down to watch it, and I expected to see a good performance. When I watched To Leslie, and it was after watching The Last of Us, so I was already kind of an emotional wreck. But when I sat down to watch To Leslie, I was expecting a good performance that maybe somebody could make an argument they should be nominated. There is no argument that she shouldn't be nominated.
Right.
Like it is truly one of the groundbreaking performances of the year. She 100% deserves the nomination. All right, what's next?
Esteban Reyes says, when the homies unite.
I don't know what that's in reference to.
Neither do I. But
That's just us every day.
sounds like something you get tattooed on a Saturday night in Vegas when you're drunk.
When the homies unite. Vatos locos forever.
There you
All right,
go.
what's next?
HV3 says, I watched Singing in the Rain for the first time last Saturday.
Singing in the rain.
I was shocked to find out that Singing in the Rain and Babylon have the same plot. Very different movies, but the same plot they do. What's the matter with my voice?
That, you know what? It was a few years ago. I went down a rabbit hole watching old Fred Astaire. That dude could dance.
He could swing time.
Holy shit, that dude could dance. I could see why he was such a big star.
He was a big star.
All right, what's next?
Left with Luca says maybe Momoa as Swamp Thing.
I don't see him getting that excited to play a monster that he's always covered up as. I mean, I could see him doing it. I just can't see him getting that woo for a role where he's going to be covered up in.
Unless he's like a closet Swamp Thing fan that's loved Swamp Thing his whole life.
I mean, you'd have to really love Swamp Thing because it's just as well to just voice him in a cartoon.
Brutal.
All right, what's next?
Michael Hoff sent in a super chat.
Thank you. And is that it?
That's it.
Well, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and joining with us here today, hanging out, friends, talking about our favorite things in the world. We're so glad that you're here with us today. Hey, guys, listen, don't forget to come back tomorrow. Join us for the next episode of the John Campea Show. Of course, we got me and Robert Meyer Burnett are going to be here. Chris Carr is going to be in the building as well, so we hope that you guys will join us then. So, again, a big thank you to our sponsors of today's show, Fume and MasterClass. Guys, please, really, honestly, remember, when you go and check out and, try our sponsor, you're actually supporting us. So make sure you go down the description. You'll find links and promo codes to the sponsors of today's show, MasterClass and Fume. So that'll do it for us, guys. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.